Mr. Krabs will do anything to make a quick buck. Season after season, we only see him being more and more efficient exploiting his surroundings. We've seen him sell SpongeBob's dignity, turn trends into profit, and squeeze nickels out of situations that shouldn't even involve money in the first place. And honestly, it's who he is at the end of the day. But more often than not, the show didn't do enough justice to give the old man some deserved consequences. Which is why it's always interesting to see the series putting some karma into the episode. So, where does a man like this begin? Funny enough, it begins in a story about three grown men taking board games way too seriously. Krusty Krab is having a painfully slow day. There are no customers and no money, until SpongeBob mentions it. But it's not real money. SpongeBob and Patrick are just playing this board game, The Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt, with the box proudly saying it's based on a real treasure map. So, Krab sits down to play anyway, and then gets addicted. He keeps playing and playing and playing to the point where he throws out an actual customer and closes the restaurant just to keep the game going. Eventually the night comes, and SpongeBob wants to go home to get some sleep. But Old Man Krabs insists that they have to play more, even if it means following SpongeBob home. Naturally, SpongeBob got mad at him, and Krabs finally realized he got carried away. So he packed up the board, said sorry, and went home. Now, you think Krabs' obsession ends there? Nope. Next morning, Krabs is already waiting for SpongeBob and Patrick in a pirate ship, ready to make the treasure hunt real. So they set off, have a full day of adventure on a ship, until they camp for the night. And when Krabs suddenly disappears from the captain's tent, SpongeBob and Patrick decide to take a look at the map, only to realize Krabs has been running them through their board game taped to a piece of paper. It's a fake, real treasure hunt this whole time. But as it turns out, the fake map still leads them to the exact spot, based on the real treasure map, right? They dig up a real treasure chest, and this is where Krabs fumbles the bag so bad. SpongeBob and Patrick start talking about what they'll do with their shares, and Krabs immediately goes, "Actually, as captain, all of it belongs to me." Of course, it makes them fight over the chest, the noise wakes up the Flying Dutchman, and Krabs panics and blames SpongeBob and Patrick for digging up the treasure. The Dutchman takes the treasure back, rewards SpongeBob and Patrick with 2 gold coins for saving him the effort, and when Krabs asks for a reward too, he gets a tiny plastic treasure chest. And the Dutchman twists the knife by saying it's based on a real treasure chest. Safe to say, he ends up with the fake nonsense he started with, a toy version of what he wanted. It's poetic, it's petty, and it's Season 1 SpongeBob at its best. The Dutchman just needs to humble Krabs' greed. Because for a lot of time in Season 1, Krabs has always been consumed by greed to take advantage of SpongeBob as the innocent boy. Which is more or less the same with the next episode, Patty Hype. There are times where Krusty Krab is dead, like weeks of being dead. And when SpongeBob pitches an idea to get customers back, Krabs and Squidward do what they do best when SpongeBob gets creative. They make fun of him.
Don't that look appetizing?
So SpongeBob does the most dangerous thing an employee can do in Bikini Bottom. He takes the idea somewhere else. He starts selling his own colorful, pretty patties from a little stand in front of his home. And wouldn't you know it, it works. It sells so well, the crowd starts lining up in no time. And now, suddenly, SpongeBob's running a proper business, while Krabs is watching from across the street in jealousy. And if there's anything Krabs will do when someone else succeeds, he becomes supportive, retroactively. He comes over, plays nice, and proposes a trade. SpongeBob can have the Krusty Krab back if he lets Krabs handle the pretty patty stand. And of course, SpongeBob agrees because he just wants to be back in his happy place flipping patties. But you know what? I don't think it's a bad deal at all. I mean, sure, Krabs is being a douchebag once he sees that money's on the line, even though he laughed at the idea before. But then SpongeBob is not really losing anything here. He doesn't care about making a name for himself. He doesn't want the fame. Heck, he doesn't even want the money.
To just give it all away.
Come again, sir. I'm getting back in line.
So yeah, it looked like a win-win situation at first. That was until the episode hit Krabs with the most humiliating form of karma: customer feedback. Because the next day, the customers start complaining about the negative effects of the patties, which quickly turns into a mob situation aimed directly at Mr. Krabs. This one is truly satisfying. The public turned on him because he took something he didn't understand, pushed it for profit anyway, and then got stuck holding the blame. And now it ends with SpongeBob off to the side, casually rubbing pickles, while Krabs is getting chased as a criminal. But more than profiting over a shifty idea in a short time, we all know what Eugene Krabs could do if he decided to go all in with his greed. A genuine predator. Jellyfish Hunter is one of the best examples of how fast one man's greed could escalate. One day, SpongeBob makes a Krabby Patty with jellyfish jelly on it for his own staff meal, and customers like it.
Hey, all you people! Hey, all you people! Hey, all you people, won't you listen to me?
So again, this already looks like a good way to crank up the sales for the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs wastes no time to tell SpongeBob, "Bring in some more jellyfish jelly." It doesn't even look evil at first. It could be just normal Krusty Krab nonsense. People are enjoying the jelly patty, Krabs is counting the extra coins, and SpongeBob thinks he's just sharing something fun with customers. But true to Krabs fashion, when it comes to maximizing profit, he always bites off more than he can chew. SpongeBob, of course, hesitates at first. He's not really sure about catching lots of jellyfish for food. So Krabs pulls SpongeBob aside and basically tells the whole story of, "The customers need this," and "think about the people," which is the oldest manipulation trick in his book. And SpongeBob, being SpongeBob, buys it instantly and heads to Jellyfish Fields to catch them all. However, the more SpongeBob brings back, the more Krabs wants, again, and again. Until we all could see that SpongeBob is actually draining the Jellyfish Fields. Then we get the turning point. SpongeBob runs into a mysterious blue, no-name jellyfish, and it kidnaps SpongeBob to see the consequences of his actions. Because Krabs is already making an industry to squeeze the jelly from the source. SpongeBob ends up seeing that the jellyfish are being drained en masse through various cruel methods. Unfortunately, Krabs, of course, doesn't have a moral awakening. When SpongeBob starts pushing back, Krabs doesn't even try to explain it. He just stands there looking proud. Lucky for the jellyfish, all it took was one slip from Krabs' mouth to open the chamber, setting them all free. Free to take revenge, of course. I feel like they should take turns stinging Mr. Krabs instead of making it one big electric zap. But whatever, I think they just wanted to get out of there ASAP. Still, I'd say Krabs hasn't gotten enough punishment for his actions here. Losing a menu is nothing compared to what all the jellyfish have been through. But I'm also putting a tiny asterisk on it. SpongeBob takes a lot of the emotional damage in this one. He's the one who comes up with the idea, and he's the one who feels betrayed by it. And even then, not every payback comes with a big crowd of jellyfish. Some episodes punish him in a more subtle way, like what we saw in Wet Painters. This episode is simple, right? I mean, if you summarize the plot too casually, it sounds like nothing. SpongeBob and Patrick painted a house, and it went wrong. Cool. But the reason it's memorable is because Mr. Krabs is genuinely unpleasant in it. The whole setup is already suspicious. He calls SpongeBob and Patrick to do a super special secret assignment, which is just painting the inside of his house. Then he hits them with a threat. If he sees even one drop of paint on anything but the wall, he'll have their rear ends cut off and mounted over his fireplace. So much for painting a wall. And it's just cruel because he knows his house is basically a minefield. The walls are covered with expensive junk and pointy decorations. SpongeBob even notices and suggests moving the valuables first, and Patrick refuses because they're not getting paid to move stuff. So the episode becomes this slow psychological torture where SpongeBob and Patrick are doing a bunch of ridiculous things to finish the task. And when the paint actually gets on something, which is his first dollar, Krab shows up ready to cash in on his threat, doing that whole theatrical,
Right, boys. You know what I've got to do now?
The paint was never permanent. It actually comes off with just saliva. And bless SpongeBob because he tries to interpret it as a lesson. Like, oh, you lied, so we'd be more careful. Krabs just killed it with one of the nastiest punchlines in the show.
I just like to mess with you.
But at least we get the petty revenge. Eugene laughs so hard, he actually spits everywhere and ends up destroying his own freshly painted house. I guess at the end of the day, Krabs is still an old school sailor. He just loves to make fun of the youngsters. Speaking of which, Squeaky Boots is also one of them. So one day, Krabs is being a cheap parent to Pearl again. He buys his daughter a birthday present, cheap Squeaky Boots, which makes Pearl not impressed at all. The boots are tall, black, squeaky, and definitely not suited for teenage girls. Well, unless your daughter is a goth. So now Krabs is left with $2 boots he doesn't need, but he convinces SpongeBob to trade his whole salary for them. I mean, SpongeBob is definitely plain stupid to take this deal, but Krabs should know better than to take advantage of the boy, because then the squeaking starts haunting him back. The boots squeak while he walks, they squeak in the Krusty Krab, they squeak in his head, and eventually it gets to horror movie level where he's hearing it even when it's not happening.
Said I'll take a...
I heard his order, Mr. Krabs. He said he was.
I guess the best part is how desperate he gets at the end. He tries to bury them under the floorboards, and yet the squeaking still follows him like guilt. So Krabs just decides to deep fry and eat it. I don't know why. It's always been weird to me since back then. Why do you think eating the source of your misery is a good idea? Now you're stuck with it both in your head and your stomach. But at least Krabs is kind enough to give SpongeBob's salary back. I think even he realized that it's not wise to rip off his employees too often. However, for Pearl's part, Krabs still paid a huge amount of money to atone for his cheapness. It just didn't happen in this episode. It happens 3 seasons later in Whale of a Birthday. It's Pearl's 16th birthday, and now she's basically begging for one normal birthday party, because her friends have been clowning her for years over how cheap her dad is. So she gives him the warning, don't embarrass me again. So he hands SpongeBob his credit card and basically assigns him the job of stalking Pearl around the mall to figure out what she likes, with the instruction to buy the right present. And SpongeBob takes that job the way he takes every job, with terrifying seriousness. SpongeBob buys practically everything Pearl shows even a mild interest in. The purchases stack up, and Krabs' sweet dad moment immediately turns into a massive credit card bill. The man starts unraveling in real time because he's finally facing the one thing he can't charm his way out of, the cost. But for what it's worth, Krabs does love to drag SpongeBob into his problems. I guess since he's the son figure? I mean, Pearl can't do the boy stuff with him, and Squidward definitely won't do it. Krusty Love is another good example, I think. Mr. Krabs meets Mrs. Puff, immediately falls for her, and now he wants to go on a date with her. Nothing wrong with that. But then he puts SpongeBob in charge of his wallet and spends the entire episode forcing SpongeBob to keep buying more and more gifts, running him ragged just so Krabs can yell at SpongeBob for spending his money. They just go back and forth for the whole episode until eventually we get the iconic crash out from SpongeBob.
You want me to run down to the store and buy Mrs. Puff something she doesn't need, then you want me to run back here so you can say, "Arr, SpongeBob, and you're spending all me money."
I honestly want SpongeBob to do this more often. It would be good for both of them. There's also one time where Krabs just follows SpongeBob for a whole day because he wants a penny from him. Yeah, penny foolish. I honestly can't explain much else about the plot. It's that simple. One day Krabs saw SpongeBob find a penny outside the supermarket. For some reason, Krabs just can't handle the fact that someone could find money out of nowhere, where others have to get a job and work hard and blah blah blah. And now he can't help but imagine it again. So he decided, I'm gonna take it from him. Then he spends the whole episode doing everything to get SpongeBob to give him the penny. He tried to straight up borrow it, to make a semi-annual charity night to attract empathy, making a theater behind the Krusty Krab, which cost exactly a penny. He even goes as far as breaking into SpongeBob's home with a metal detector. Like, the guy is so committed to get the penny, even if it means he has to spend more than a penny. Turns out, SpongeBob tells him it wasn't a penny that he found, it's just an old gum for Gary, which turns out to be a $500 bill, but Krabs doesn't know that.
Krabs, that wasn't a penny. Ah, that was just a dried up piece of gum for my collection.
Still, Krabs doesn't believe it as he continues to dig around Conch Street to keep searching for the penny. It's just crazy. But since we're talking about pennies, Penny Foolish doesn't even come close to the craziest stuff Krabs has done while trying to grab a few extra coins. We still haven't talked about Wishing You Well. The episode starts with Mr. Krabs noticing people tossing coins into a well to make a wish, which he thinks is crazy, right? Why would you just throw away your hard-earned money like that? Then he learns what a wishing well is, and within minutes, he builds one outside the Krusty Krab, the Eugene Krabs Memorial Wishing Well, which is already insane because, as Squidward points out, you normally need to be dead to have a memorial anything. However, all the wishes aren't important here. It's Krab's attitude behind it. He's basically standing next to the well, watching people toss money into a hole because they want their life to improve. And Krabs, of course, is thrilled. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Patrick end up down in the well because of stupid actions, of course. And so, after 5 minutes of claustrophobic adventure, SpongeBob finds magic deeper down, which is the one thing you never want to hand Mr. Krabs. A proof that something can produce value without effort. Luckily, once SpongeBob starts insisting the well is actually granting wishes, he doesn't believe any of it.
You don't get what you want in life just by wishing for it.
All while every wish became true around him. So he tries to prove there's no magic. He tosses a coin while saying a crazy wish and ends up on a dinner plate steamed with melted butter. In the end, it feels like a consequence for exploiting something pure. He did turn a wishing well into a profit machine after all. And yet, it's still not the worst thing he ever does to innocent people, because I can assure you, there is lots of obvious criminal stuff which Krabs almost manages to pull off. One of the easiest answers, of course, the smoking peanut. SpongeBob and Patrick go to the Bikini Bottom Zoo, and the big star of the place is this giant clam. It's basically the main event. SpongeBob, being SpongeBob, tosses it a peanut to get a reaction, and it works a little too well. The clam gives more than just a reaction by flipping out and turns the zoo into panic mode. And suddenly, SpongeBob is the culprit. So now we follow SpongeBob into a journey of guilt, knowing he might be the one that caused this national panic.
Cry that not only breaks the sound barrier.
SpongeBob subtly asks just about everyone what will happen to the culprit if he, let's say, got apprehended. Of course, all the answers are not good, but weirdly enough, at the end of the day, the police somehow catch Patrick. I guess since Patrick was with SpongeBob at the scene when it all happened, he becomes a suspect. But of course, SpongeBob admits he's guilty right before they truly punish Patrick by throwing lots of peanuts at him. I don't think Patrick would mind, though. Still, the real culprit behind all the commotion is none other than, you guessed it, Eugene Krabs himself. He said it was a free day, so he took the clam's pearl. So what? Still won't admit the guilt, huh? That was ironic for someone who also had a daughter named Pearl. How don't you understand the despair of losing your own pearl? I guess he won't be feeling bad for any clams, considering his past with them. You know, the Clams episode? At the Krusty Krab, Krabs earns his $1 millionth and treats it like a sacred artifact. He kicks customers out, makes a big deal of it, and tells SpongeBob and Squidward they're going on a celebratory fishing trip because apparently nothing says I'm rich, like sitting in a smelly boat staring at murky water. Then the dollar gets eaten by a clam because SpongeBob. And wouldn't you know it, Krabs would do anything to get that dollar back. He stops caring about fun, safety, or sanity. the entire trip becomes forced labor because we'll keep fishing until you find my money. He's even willing to trap SpongeBob and Squidward in the lagoon indefinitely over something that, objectively, is worth $1. Sentiment matters, sure, but this is tyranny. Luckily, karma keeps tightening the screws because Krabs is forced to use the dramatic orchestra to lure the clam out. And when it does, he jumps right inside its mouth to grab the precious dollar. Is it worth it to lose half of your body for $1? Apparently Krabs doesn't seem to mind. Now I'm thinking, can we actually count this one as deserved punishment? If Mr. Krabs himself didn't seem to care, it's not exactly torture for him. Because that's the thing, right? Even though there is enough deserved punishment for Krabs in the show, enough for me to make this video, it's not rare for Krabs to get away with little to no punishment. So I'm going to walk you through a few of them. You could think of this as a sort of honorable mentions list. The most obvious one is, of course, one-course meal. I don't even have to dramatize this. Krabs torments Plankton for fun, takes it way too far to the point of Plankton giving up hope for living. And all he gets for comeuppance is a mime show? I mean, yes, he's afraid of it, but then the mime needs to follow him around for a few weeks to make it equal. Then the scent of money. One time he discovers a way to make money faster. Gary. Because for some reason, Gary's shell could vacuum coins? Needless to say, Krabs is even willing to exploit Gary to the casino slot machine. He sucked up all the coins there until eventually he got consumed by his own greed. He suffers a heavy injury from this, which is not cheap, but he was still able to pay the bill with all of his stolen coins. Shouldn't they have been confiscated, and then Krabs have to pay with his own money? And what about one Krabs trash? Selling SpongeBob some trash and charging money for it is peak Krabs. But then, when a random fish tells him he's willing to buy the soda hat for $1 million, Krabs doesn't even think twice about taking it back from SpongeBob. He tries to scare SpongeBob by playing the ghost of Smitty Weber Jagenman Jansen, saying SpongeBob should give the hat back. Unfortunately, SpongeBob takes it too seriously and buries the hat in Smitty's grave. But there's no such thing as going too far for Mr. Krabs. He's willing to steal from the dead if he can make a buck. He's still got the soda hat though. But as it turns out, the hat isn't really worth much, and all the grave robbing was for nothing. I still think he should go to jail for this. But nothing irritates me more than what happens in the Krusty Sponge. So there's this guy called Gene Scallop, a food critic, who gives the Krusty Krab a glowing review. And Krabs learns the customers aren't just coming for the food, they're coming for SpongeBob. So what does he do? He rebrands the entire restaurant into a SpongeBob-themed attraction, like a theme park built around one employee's face. Needless to say, he pushes it a bit too far. To complete the Krusty Sponge gimmick, Krabs starts serving these gross yellow patties made from old rotten patties he found under the grill. He calls them spongy patties, tries to pass them off as part of the theme, and of course, it makes the customers sick. So the whole town takes him to court, and we all think, finally, he's gonna receive a consequence that matches the scale of his crime. Mass food poisoning deserves some jail time, right? The jury does find him guilty, and Krabs pretends he's remorseful. He's basically about to go to prison. But then the episode pulls the rug out from under us in the most frustrating way possible. The judge turns out to be a SpongeBob superfan. Krabs cuts a deal to avoid jail, SpongeBob goes back to cooking, and Squidward has to spend the rest of the day dragging the judge around on the Krusty Sponge fun train. Why? I mean, Krabs being an evil businessman is one thing, but this judge is also a dirty mudfish for accepting bribes. And why is Squidward the one who has to do it? Do it yourself, Krabs! However, for all the unpunished crime and sin Mr. Krabs has committed, the show actually does punish him good when he goes too far. It's only happened a few times, but if anything, it makes it all the more memorable, right? Patty Caper is one of the cleanest Krabs gets what he deserves episodes because the crime is petty, the motive is embarrassing, and the punishment is basically tailored to hurt him the best way possible. So one day, the secret ingredient goes missing. SpongeBob panics and the whole episode plays like a little mystery. Then, he spends 11 minutes tracing all the steps and clues he got, trying to figure out who's the culprit and how the culprit did it. Only to find Krabs stole it himself. Plankton didn't outsmart him. No one infiltrated the Krusty Krab. Krabs did it because he didn't want to pay $1.99 for it. This is a grown man risking his entire restaurant over pocket change, which is not the first time he does it, but still. Then karma does something beautiful. It convicts him. He's found guilty of grand theft by the judges, and the sentence is the one thing he genuinely cannot tolerate. He has to give away Krabby Patties for free all day. And because SpongeBob episodes can be petty in the best way, they also strap Krabs down and force him to watch it happen. It's the perfect justice. You wanted to save $2? Congratulations! Now watch yourself lose thousands. But I dare to argue, when it comes to torturing Mr. Krabs for his crime, nothing can beat the bunch of kids from Krabby Land. The story of Krabby Land is about Krabs doing something that should be wholesome, but instead, he turns it into a cash extraction machine aimed at children. Summer break hits, and he realizes there's a whole population of kids with time to kill and parents with money. So he builds a playground out of cheap, rusty junk and charges admission. And the cruel part is that SpongeBob is genuinely excited. He loves the idea of making kids happy. He becomes the camp counselor of the whole thing. Meanwhile, Krabs only cares about squeezing out every penny while the place is falling apart around him. Krabs would go so far as to let SpongeBob get beaten just for the sake of entertainment for these kids. I mean, Krabs is heartless for letting that happen, but also, what kind of sick children crave violence for entertainment? It's just nuts. So, it only makes sense. When these kids get fed up and the whole Krabby Land illusion collapses, Krabs ends up on the receiving end of the very crowd he was exploiting. Now you're getting what SpongeBob got, including the lima beans. I still get so much joy from watching that episode. So yeah, Mr. Krabs never changes. If anything, he just gets better at being himself. And most of the time, the show lets that slide, which is exactly why these episodes hit different. Sometimes, the payback is neat and satisfying, like Patty Caper turning a $2 shortcut into an all-day loss. Sometimes it's loud and chaotic, like Krabby Land collapsing under the weight of its own cheapness. And sometimes, it's honestly not enough, everyone letting him walk away with a discount. But here's the funny part. Krabs isn't even the most complicated greedy character in this show, because at least with Krabs, the motive is simple: money. You can see it coming from a mile away. Meanwhile, his lifelong rival, Plankton, is the one who makes things weird. Half the time he's a genius, half the time he's self-sabotage on legs. One episode he's a cartoon supervillain, the next he's basically having a sad little existential crisis. And that little contradiction is exactly what I broke down in my last video, the episode that solved the Plankton paradox. So if you want to see the deeper psychological mess behind Bikini Bottom's other capitalist gremlin, go watch that next. I'll see you on the next dive.